Hey guys, thank you for joining us again for another exciting episode of Yomo. This is the Year of Magical Learning podcast. And today we have a brand new book for you. The book is called Quit, The Power of Knowing When to Walk Away by Annie Duke. This is a two-part reflection, and this is part one of two. And the reflection number is 349.
That's right. 349. We're getting there. I even documented on this one. This is officially mile marker 25 of the 26.2 mile Yomo marathon. We are down to 1.2 miles left to go in the journey. And, it feels good. I'm going to turn my space heater on because it's 10 to 5 degrees outside. Yeah,
That's cool.
it is. Yeah. It's been warm for the past few days. It's been like 0 or below. Actually, sorry, it says 23 now. So this is like a heat wave for us right now for the past few days. So you know who Annie Duke is. I think you've read some of her books before, right?
Yeah,
Are
yeah.
are you a poker fan by any chance?
No, not.
Okay. So Annie Duke, just for reference, if you don't know the world of poker, you'll probably think that I'm a total nerd, but like Annie Duke is kind of like a name a famous basketball player, 70s or 80s or something, like Magic Johnson, or no, she's not that famous, like Dominique Wilkins or something like that, like somebody that's like a star but not like a superstar kind of thing, but like was like a star, right? She was like a poker star. Especially poker holds a place near and dear in my heart because when I was in high school, like my freshman year, I think is the first time that they really ever televised the World Series of Poker on ESPN. And for whatever reason, it just like caught like wildfire with like my friends and my generation. And I'm an incredibly competitive person. And I just remember playing cards over at my friend Kyle's house until 3 in the morning when we were freshmen, sophomore, juniors, and seniors in high school, and gambling away our money that we had no idea that we had, and playing all these games, having a ton of fun while we were watching World Series of Poker on ESPN, and Doyle Brunson's playing, and Johnny Chan, and Annie Duke was one of those famous players. Her brother is this poker legend named Howard Lederer. They call him the Professor. The Howard Lederer is the reason why she ended up getting into poker. She was actually like a psychology major, apparently. I learned this in the book. She went to school for that, and like I don't know, she hit some hard times or something, and then her brother convinced her to give it a try, and she was like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And ended up trying it, loved it, and she ended up becoming like I think she was one of the first women ever to win the World Series of Poker bracelet or something like that. So she was always like one of like the stars of TV, like on ESPN of like Annie Duke, Howard Lederer's little sister. And anyway, so it's funny that I read this book later on in life because that was like 20 years ago now, probably younger or more than that, probably like 25 years ago now. And now she's went back to school, but she continued to play poker. But then she ended up writing books and stuff. And now she's like a successful author as well as kind of just a thought leader out there taking what she's learned in the poker world and her psychology world and combining it all together and kind of packaging it all together. So it's pretty cool. Side note, secondary poker story. I stopped gambling when I was like 25 or something like that. I loved it, loved every minute of it. At one point in time, I wanted to be like a pro
Love
poker.
it too much.
Loved it too much. And I did not know my emotions, and I did not know myself. I did not know my values as well then. So I could not control myself. I let my emotions take me on a ride, and it was a roller coaster up and down all over the place. And yeah, so I luckily somehow figured out how to stop myself and don't gamble. I don't even play cards with friends anymore, just for fun with no money. I just won't gamble. But anyway, this is my last gambling story. So my wife now, we started dating when she was like I want to say she was probably like 20 and I was 20 like 3, and I was 22 and she was 20, and I had just graduated from college and she was turning 21. So I was 23 now and living away from where she was. She was still back in college where we went to school at, and she really wanted to go to Vegas for her 21st birthday. And I was like, sure, why not? Like I'll with you to Vegas. So we go to Vegas, and we're staying at this is the only time I've ever been to Vegas by for reference, by the way. I will never go there ever in my life again. I mean, I just can't do it. So I go into to we're there, we're having a good time, whatever. One of the days she's like, "Hey, do you want to go like play cards before we go to dinner or something like that, or go like to the casinos before we go out to dinner with my family?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, let's do it." So I go down to the poker room in Caesar's Palace, and I'm going to the chip cashing station to get chips and go play poker. And there's this guy in front of me in the line, and it's Johnny Chan. Do you know who Johnny Chan is?
I've seen him before on TV. Yeah.
Okay, so it's Johnny fucking Chan, right? Like, I mean, have you ever seen the movie Rounders before?
No, not.
Oh my God, that is like in actuality one of the best movies I've ever seen. Just so you know, this movie Rounders is probably one of the top 10 movies I've ever seen in my life. In like my high school buddies and I that were super into poker, they would play like on a loop, right? You know, in the background, it was with Matt Damon and Edward Norton Jr. Such a good movie. It was like an underground poker club movie, you know, that was kind of like off the beaten path. It wasn't like one of these big mainstream blockbuster movies. John Malkovich is in it. And he's Teddy KGB, like this club owner that speaks in Russian. And he's like, anyway, such a good movie. Well, the whole movie is about Matt Damon, who is like this card wizard, you know, poker savant, and he's afraid to play. He's like, because I can't risk it, you know, like I got to go to law school and I gotta get a job, and you know, and then his best buddy Edward Norton Jr. is like this freewheeling like dude that just always pulls him into these bad situations, and like it's called rounders because that's what you call people that play cards all the time. They call them rounders, right? So Matt Damon has to get out of this bad situation that he's in, and he goes to Atlantic City one night, and he's like, I never told anybody the story, but he was like, I went toe to toe with Johnny Chan one night on a table in Atlantic City, and he tells this like story and how he bluffed Johnny Chan, and they show the scene or whatever. Matt Damon's like, you know, it's like time to show your cards, and he throws in his last thing. And he read Johnny Chan so well that Johnny Chan folded his cards, and he looks up at him and he goes, "Did you have it?" And he goes, "Sorry, I don't remember, John." And like his buddies are like, Johnny fucking Chan, man. So this is me at this age, right? The Caesars Casino getting chips, and Johnny fucking Chan is standing right in front of me, and I'm like, Felicia, I'm like looking at my wife, I'm like, oh my god, it's Johnny Chan. She's like, who the fuck is Johnny Chan? I'm like, it's Johnny fucking Chan. Like, you know, like, yeah. So that was my fun card story. Anyway, I'm on a total sidetrack, but that was fun. Thanks for indulging me. Back to the story, right? So this is Andy Duke's book. It's about the power of quitting and knowing when to quit. And anyway, so I loved it so much that I wrote a two-part reflection. The first part, part one, is the ants go marching one by one, except when they don't. So
well,
yeah.
sounds about right.
Well, let me explain, right? So this YOML journey is, as you know, started. Well, here I started this whole reflection off by a quick reflection on YOML itself. You know, we're at reflection 349, right? We are in the home stretch. You know, we have 1.2 miles left to go in a marathon, right? You know, this is when you're running and you're getting closer to the end of your run, and you're like, oh my God, I only got 1.2 miles left. I could do that. I've done that 1,000 times in my life, especially if you're in a marathon situation. You're like, I could do this in my sleep. We're talking 8 minutes, you know, or something like that. Like, that's nothing. Like, I could run for 8 minutes. You get this psychological kick in your head, you know, you're like, I could do this, right? That's kind of how I felt during YOMO. And I know that you saw this every single day as I was writing this, but I was dragging ass like in around book 300, you know, and I'm like, oh my God. You know, that was when I hit that bonk, right? You know, when you run out of energy in a real marathon kind of thing. And anyway, I hit my last stretch, and it made me reflect on how amazing this journey had been, right? And this is something that I will never forget for the rest of my life. And we're still going, by the way. I mean, you and I are still doing this, and I'm still writing today. And I'm on, you know, I decided to turn it into an ultra marathon. Now we're on 432, right? So, you know, we're almost 100 reflections ahead of this one now. And that was supposed to be the end of the marathon, right? The thing about YOMO for me is it was never really about just 365, right? And you and I talk about this all the time. It's something that I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my life. I don't know what form it's going to take or what the next iteration of YOMO is, but learning, living my values helps me to connect with my daughter. Like, that's what YOMO is. It's not just 365 reflections in a book or something like that we're sharing on these podcasts. So for me, it was really important to have a reflective moment to say, like, look, this is great. We're almost at the finish line, but the race doesn't stop, and it's not going to end. And I have no intentions of ending it. Neither, I'm sure, do you or any other things, right, going forward. But it made me start to think about YOMO in general, right? So, and this is where the ants come into play. So let's go back to the beginning of YOMO, how this whole thing began in the first place. It was with something that I do every month called a monthly challenge, right? Challenge yourself is one of my core values. So I took it literally, and I said, I'm going to literally challenge myself to do something out of my comfort zone, something that I'm not familiar with, you know, and just to see what happens, right? And, you know, try to do it for 30 days, for a month. If I can't do it, whatever. If I do it every day, great. If I form a great habit, great. This is one of those harebrained ideas that I brought to you. I remember we were on our normal nightly chat, and I was like, you know what we should do? We should try to combine all of our efforts of all the books we read and start to compile it together in a book and put lessons all together. And you were like, well, why don't you try it? And I was like, fine, fuck it, I'll try it. Fine. I'll do it first. Let's do a monthly challenge on it. And you're like, go for it. And I'm like, okay, great. So I decided to use it as my monthly challenge. Do you remember that conversation? So I did it, right? fast forward to the end of the month, and it was like a breeze. I think I wrote like 25 reflections almost every single day of the month. And I was like, this is awesome. Like, I was like, this is fantastic. We get to October, and I was like, I'm keeping going, man. Fuck this shit. So we just kept going, and then boom, here we are, 349. Now I'm on 432, and this was back in 2021. We're in 2024 now. So it's been a long, fun journey at that point in time. But it made me start to think of, here's the thing with these monthly challenges. The whole point of why I do it is the whole point of YOMO and the whole point of living for two is to do things that I love to do with my daughter, to be able to connect with her spirit and to be able to feel like I'm honoring her life and all the things that we like to do together, right? Well, the problem is I can't do everything, right? There's a lot of things that I love to do, but I can't do everything. That's what these challenges are for, is to figure out, do I really is it really a red thread, or is it just like an idea that comes and goes? Like the piano that sits right over here that I tried for a month and I played 4 times and did not stick. And I was like, okay, that's that, or the fucking knitted. I should go get my horribly knitted hat, that looks like a mentally, handicapped person tried to put it together or something like that. It's horrible. It looks like I'm embarrassed to even show it, but I tried it and I did it almost every day and it still sucked. And it was not a red thread, right? So it made me think about something. What does this all have to do with Andy Duke and the power of quitting? So this is what I learned from this book. Ants, right? So we think of ants, we think of they're all just marching in order, right? The ants go marching one by one, right? They just are all worker ants trying to build their colony, keep them digging holes or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's how you think of ants, right? I mean,
beaver must dam, ants must build colonies.
Exactly. They do it. They're all related. They all help each other to do their thing. Well, I didn't know this, but the ants don't do that. So they have these specifically designated ants. They call them, what do they call them? They're called explorer ants. They're designated as explorer ants. And these ants don't go where everybody else is going. They specifically go on their own and they go out and try new paths and find new shit, right? The goal for them is to find, because they know they're going to run out of food eventually. All the ants know they're going to run out of food on whatever trail that they're all marching on right now. So they send out these designated explorer ants to go explore. And if they hit a little honey pot, then they're like, oh, okay, great. We know where we're going next with. Let the rest of the troops know. And then we put all of our resources over there and then we go all in. Well, that's what I had this like aha moment when I was reading this book, and I was like, that's what these monthly challenges are. It's like my little explorer ants sitting for me and Amelia, sending them out, trying new stuff out. And then some days you hit a honey pot. Like when I did the pickleball and tennis monthly challenges. Wow. Talk about a honey pot, like catapulted me into my next weird ass thing that I'm doing right now of running a pickleball club. That was probably the biggest catalyst. Like I played almost every freaking day for 60 days straight. I feel like tennis and pickleball multiple times a day. And I was like, oh my God, I actually really love pickleball. And I was like, I really do want to do this thing. And that catalyst, that now here we are, right? Getting ready to launch an indoor pickleball club, right? It's one of those things where this is about living your values and living for two with my daughter. And like, got to send these explorer ants out to go find the next honey pot because YOMO's not going to last forever. It's going to end at 365. But I know what this is all about. It's about living for two. It's about living your values. So, we'll find the next honey pot. We'll keep going that direction. So anyway, that's a reflection. Sorry, talked a long time on that one.
That's all right. I think that's essentially what we do at Company. It's the main purpose of Company is to foster a place for people to explore and find out what core values has a red thread, meaning that you resonate with. Right. And so a lot of time we don't know, and no one knows until you actually have to try it out. This is one of the biggest, I guess, learning moment for me is when I was able to guide somebody through the quest, and I say, well, you don't know your core values, right? And a lot of times you think you know, but that's because we were told and we were conditioned to do to say, hey, I love to be, challenged. I love to be competitive. I love to, be hustling and bustling. But sometimes that's
not true.
That's somebody else is talking, right? It's
right,
someone else talking through you versus you actually think, hey, this is what I really like. Because without the I guess the desire or the drawn to, like, when you pick up the pickleball, one of the things you did is like you get to the point where you go there for 3-4 hours a day, for like 4 to 7 days a week, and you do that for a whole month. I mean, you over exceeded the monthly challenge.
My wife is about to kill me.
Right. That means you are onto something, right? Yeah. Because you come out there and you have this, I guess, goal of, hey, I want to do this, like you do the crochet thing. Yeah, I want to knit a hat,
Right,
and
right.
you didn't over exceed that. I mean, you didn't excel in it. That's not your
Not
Beaver
even
must
close.
damn. Right? That's not your Beaver must damn. Same thing with the music, like the songs, right? If your goal was to write one song for your wife, and you end up writing 5 songs, yeah, that
Right.
is your red thread. That is the thing that resonates with you. But if you struggle
That's
to
a
do
good
that,
challenge. I should do that. I should try to write some songs. Anyway, all right, go ahead. Sorry.
if you could write some songs and you excel in it, just like you excel in writing these reflections, is that you enjoy it. When you enjoy it, you feel like you can do more and you want to do
You want to
more,
do more. Yeah, I
right?
was I would go to bed every night thinking about, oh, what do I want to write about next? What do I want to get out of my head and work through the problems? It's like something magical happens every day when I get to write these things. Like the one I wrote yesterday, like I I didn't know what the fuck I wanted to write about, and all of a sudden, like an hour and a half to get that one out of my head because I just started
Mm-hmm.
writing, and eventually,
Mm-hmm.
poof, an awesome reflection pops out, and I was like, man, that was actually really helpful. Like, it was really helpful for me to formulate my thoughts and to get it out there. And I was like, high five to Amelia and went about my day. It's like that was nice. That was fun. I was in a zone and having a good time, and poof, something pops out, and I go on my day, and it's great, and I love it.
Right. And I think that's the purpose of life is to, like I said, we as human beings, we are explorer of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
That is something that we are innately born with. Every one of us has that gene in us. But the caveat is the explorer of knowledge that interests you. So it's not about all knowledge, it's knowledge that
What
interests
do
you.
you care
So
about, right?
so this is what I'm saying. There are certain things like, hey, if you're a beaver, then you want to build dams, right? That is just your particular resonance.
Right.
You align to that particular activity. Writing is great, but for me, writing isn't. To talk about these things, you and I have these are our honeypots. And
Mm-hmm.
so we have to have this exploratory activities where we want to go and explore things and see when something
when
aligns or
when,
doesn't
when we
align.
strike gold, like when we dig and you hit a piece of gold as you start digging a shot, like it's dig a lot of holes, but don't dig deep in each hole until and like this is the art of running uphill, right? Is when you go, look, I'm gonna go dig down as far as I possibly can, and I'm going to find something that I value in this hole, right? And
The
it's
point is, if you enjoy, I mean, the thing is, it's not about what you get out of it. Like, if you have, let's say, you have the capacity and the tools and the skills necessary to dig the hole, for you, it's so easy.
it's
It's
not easy.
effortless.
It's not easy. It meets my abilities, and I'm able
Right.
to
Your
do.
ability is more than
It's like running, Yulia or whatever how do you ever pronounce his name? The guy that's run, the world record holder for a marathon runner, right? Like his comfort zone of running is like probably a 4 minute, 10-second mile. You know what I mean? Like my monthly challenge this month is to try to run at a 5 minute mile pace for as long as I can each day at the end of my workout and just see how far I go. Do you know how far I've gotten so far? Bear in mind, I started off at 1 minute was my max that I was
mhm,
going at a 5 minute mile pace. And then I was like, oh God, I'm gassed. We're about
mhm.
a month. I've done it every day, except for I missed one day. It's January 17th. Where do you think I'm at today?
In terms of minutes or in terms
Yeah, in
of
terms of how long I could run at a 5 minute mile pace. I'm just trying to see if how long I can run at a 5 minute mile pace until I go, oh, okay, I can't do this anymore. Like, until I'm finally like until the control switch in
I
my brain
think
that
about 5 minutes.
well, no, I'm saying, where do you think I'm at right now? I started off and I was only able to do about 1 minute at that pace, before I
Uh-huh.
was like, okay, fuck it, I got to pull it off, and then
Right.
like, where do you think I'm at right now? I've been doing this each day. I've been trying to do, as long as I possibly can at the end of my workout and see
Are
where
you plateauing or no?
I'm not.
So you should be able to do about 15, 20 minutes.
What? No, true. I was able to run 1 minute at a 5 minute mile pace, meaning 12 miles an hour. How long do you think I can now run at a 12 miles an hour and one with before I'm like, oh God, I gotta cut off.
You said you were 1 minute. Now you can run 2 minutes at the same pace.
That's about right. I'm at like 145.
Mhm.
So I'm my goal, but the thing is that every single day I'm like 145. Tomorrow I'm at like 148 or 150. The next day, sometimes I make like a 5 second, 7 second leap. Some days I'm back at sort of where I was before, but like my point being is like I am seeing the progress and I'm enjoying it, but like I'm saying like that is not my comfort zone, right? Like Eliud Kipchoge can run probably a 4 minute 30-second pace in his sleep. Like that's like probably me running, an 8 minute mile where I'm like, I could do this all day. Like I don't care about it.
Right. I
Like
think
I
that's
don't even
that. To me, back to what we were saying is, when you are hitting the honeypot, you know it. I
yeah.
guarantee your activity is going to be so impressive even to you
Right.
that I say, well, really, I did all this, right? That is when you know that's your honeypot.
Agreed.
So the exploratory ants in you, let's go explore. And if you are struggling at like even the slightest,
I know.
then it's not it.
I'm done. I
It's
know.
not it. To
I
me,
know,
to
man.
go spend that effort somewhere else.
That's a great point with all these things. It's when I make progress on it and I can see the progress. Like each day when I'm doing these runs, like I get to see myself make a little bit more progress, and I'm like, okay, all right, I'm making progress. Like, I don't know how far, maybe if I did this for the next 2 months, maybe I'm running a full 5 minute mile, like and running a 5 minute mile at age 40, like I'd be like, holy shit, like that's fucking impressive. And I'm like, what else can I do? You're exactly right. It's when you can see incremental progress every single day and you can feel that incremental progress and you're like, I'm improving.
You see your progress is slowed and you are struggling even at the slightest. It's
Right.
probably not the optimal self. So I would say
Right.
spend that effort exploring something else, because something else is going to make you so, because to the people that hit the honeypot, it is like they could not resist but do the activity. Like
Right.
you can't resist but go to a pickleball game and you say, hey, I don't care if I have to play this 5-year-old, I will play it. That is the absurdity
It is,
of
man.
the activity. And this is your honeypot. You know
Agreed.
what I mean? It's like, hey, I'll read anything. I'll read nonfiction. I'll read fiction. I'll read movie. I read magazine. I'll write
Right.
whatever. Then you hit the honeypot. That's what I'm saying. If you had to put any kind of willpower into your activity, because some activity that you do is because you have the faculty to do it. Doesn't mean that you should do, because it has to draw you in. If it
Right.
doesn't draw you in, then a lot of time, even a little effort eventually will exhaust you. It may take you longer to exhaust yourself, but if you had to put in some kind of energy, it will exhaust you just because it requires a like an you, you
It
deplete some
requires
power.
willpower. It requires
You
willpower.
deplete some power versus you
Yeah.
receiving power, right?
Right. Right.
Receiving the energy. And so eventually, like I said, $1 million, right? It's one penny at a time. We'll add to $1 million. So if a single grain of sand will tip a scale,
Right.
right? That's what we mean is everything adds up from the smallest grain of sand. And so if something that doesn't align, even though it is so insignificant as a grain of sand, but enough of it will tip the scale.
It
And
will. Yeah.
so because we have a limited resources of time, right? Time is the most precious resources that anyone was given. You were given that from the get-go. You're giving a chunk of time.
Right.
Don't waste it. Right?
Agreed.
Don't waste it on doing
On
things
something you
just
don't want to
you don't
do.
want to do. I mean, if I don't want to do the marathon, why you do the
Right.
marathon? If you think about life as a marathon, I mean, I can't wait until the end of my life. The perspective of a marathon is just that. You
Right.
cannot
Yeah.
wait until your life end. Right? Think about it. If you think life is a marathon, that means that you are yearning for the day your life ends. That is kind of insane. You think life should not
I
be like a
agree.
marathon?
It's not a marathon is so a marathon's like a moonshot, right? And we talked about this with the book about the rocket men, right? With Buzz Aldrin and a lot of these astronauts when they would come back, almost all of them, they spent so much time on the literal moonshot. That was all that they thought about. That was the end point. That was the terminal. Which, by the way, I hate that word terminal. Every time I go to the airport and I see terminal, and I'm like,
That's the
I don't
end.
like that fucking. I mean, that because it's the end, and I'm like, no, this isn't the end. Like, like this is just a stop.
Think about life. You want your life to end.
No, and
Does
when
it
you hear the word
end?
terminal cancer or something like that, right? You're like, well, I don't want my life to end. You know what I mean? Like, nobody wants to be the terminal. And, anyway, that was a side note, but like like Buzz Aldrin, right? When he came back, he had everything, every waking minute of his life was invested into landing on the moon. When he came back home, he was like, what do I do now? He had no idea why he was doing what he was doing in the first place. It certainly was a red thread, but he didn't understand what the red thread was within what he was doing. And that was his only goal, was to make it to the moon. And then you get done with that and you're like, it's like Michael Phelps when he gets done with all of his gold medals and he's like, what do I do now?
Somebody else's goal that he's doing it for. I mean, a lot of times, like I say, we make the mistake of taking on somebody else's dream, because this is what we do as a young kid. Is we're told, you should be like Elon, you should be like Steve Jobs. We are being constantly being told, like, as if you have this angels and the devil on your shoulder telling you all. So all that you do up until you're able to think about for yourself is you are constantly being forced into a certain mold. Even today, you and I don't have the freedom to do that, because you have your mother, you have your family, your sister, your aunt and uncle. Like, hey, Chris, what are you doing? Why are you doing things that it's like completely abnormal? They won't let you do it. I mean, because you really have to like really put your foot down to do the thing you do. And that's what I'm saying. It's society have a grip on us, and they won't let you think freely. Thank God America is one of the country that allows people to think freely in a certain level, not totally, okay?
Right.
Even though we represent that, but in modern America, you don't really have the ability to think freely.
No,
I mean,
nobody.
you do in terms of the comparison from America to other country, right? You do have some leeway, but it's not 100%. Right? I'm just making that observation. And don't get me wrong, America is still the best country. I mean, regardless of what people think and how people say about politics and that, right? It's still the best country. They still have like limited in terms of the totality of freedom, but the freedom is still pretty open compared to other countries. But my point is, because society is basically giving us a culture, giving us a norm that hey, you have to follow this norm, and that norm sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. If it's a bad culture, then you're forced to do things that's not your own. You're forced to not think for yourself.
Right.
You're forced to follow the tradition.
Tell you. Right.
And that's, to me, it's one of the sad part of society. Right? Because society to me is a tool. It could be used for good or bad. If used for bad, then everybody say, hey, you live in a social environment, therefore you have to adhere to them. You can't just go and do whatever you want, right? Because of that, most people don't live the life that is aligning with them, that resonates with them. That's the honey pot for them.
Right.
So company in general is trying to say, okay, what can we do
find your own honeypot and then be around a bunch of other people
to rectify and start to group people into similar,
honeypot seekers together, right? Like, it's not like you want to be alone, because that's a part of the honeypot as well, right? Like, this wouldn't be as fun if I didn't have you to talk.
You want to group beavers together. You want to group lions together. You want to group eagles together. You don't want to mix like you want to mix the mouse with an owl, right? So you don't want to mix them together. So you want.
Well, they can all be together in an ecosystem, though, right? Like, all those people do live together. They just don't.
For the big picture, you have to have an ecosystem, and where you play a part is vital.
Yes.
That part, whatever you do, may seem insignificant, but it's vital to the whole ecosystem. Without it, the whole ecosystem would be out of place. I mean, it cannot churn. It's a system.
Right.
And so, but you still want to optimize the system by having a bunch of beavers together, right? Building dams together. Right? These are your honeypot explorer of sort. And honeypot, enjoy the honeypot, and the eagles together, the lions together, and however they work together meaningfully. This is how we want human beings to do, because of our sophistication of our forebrain. We have the ability to segment into smaller, we call it core values, right? This is what we call core value, is what aligns to you in terms of, I'm this kind of person, I'm competitive, I like to learn, I like to think, I like to craft, I like to crochet, whatever that is I like to be the connectors. I like to be the producer. I like to be the explorer. Whatever that is, it is your role that make you who you are.
It's the core values are like a compass that you use to go set out on a course that you think is a course that you might want to go down. But it's no different than any explorer out there in the world. Sometimes, where you think you have the right settings on your compass, and you're like, oh, it's okay. The compass isn't broke. It took you to where you wanted to go, but you realize I didn't find anything there. Like that's kind of what we're talking about at a high level with all this stuff, right? It's like you got to have a compass to guide your life, and that compass is going to take you places. Sometimes it might take you to the absolute perfect place. Sometimes it's going to take you to a shit place. But that's what the whole this book is about. Is about
But
knowing
I
when
mean,
to
out
walk.
the case though, the problem I see isn't because of you. I think you're using a wrong compass.
Well, okay, so I do see what you're saying. Like it's the compass. You
Because the
find
thing is,
the place that you go, you find the compass. Like I guess maybe or something like that.
well, the thing is, for you, if you spend the time, I mean, to me, as far as I've got to this point in my life, I think that as long as you spend the effort to learn who you are first and selecting your compass to follow, to me, it's like it's a guarantee. It's like learning how to walk. It's a
Right.
guarantee. You think that any compass will do. You pick up someone else's compass and say, "Well, it pointed me to that direction. I go to follow this compass here. It doesn't give me the fulfillment I want." Because when you and I grow up, okay, we are being told, I don't know about you, but I'm being told, especially from my family and from everybody else, say, hey, this is what you're going to be, blah, blah, blah. You're being told, essentially, that's your compass. And if you listen to that compass, chances are the location of where that needle is pointing, when you get there, this is what
Yeah.
you want. It's not your honey pot, right? Because the honey pot for somebody is honey, somebody is, the frog, or somebody is,
Wrapping
steak,
it up.
coconut, whatever. It doesn't matter. For you is you have to use your compass, but
Right.
you have to know what compass is yours and what compass isn't. And to you, if you spend the time to think about yourself and what is you want in life, the problem is most people, the people who knows what they want, probably only spend like less than 1% of the time thinking about who they are, and yet they already know what they want.
Right.
Most people don't even think about what they want. And that's what I'm saying is it's not about you going to the wrong place, because I guarantee you, you know if you enjoy something or you don't.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's what I was meaning. Is like that. That's a did in retrospect say that I was not impeccable with my words when I was trying to say in my head. Like the compass you're going to go in different directions, and the compass is going to tell you if you're either going in the right direction or not. Right? Like you got to consult with that. And if you don't have a compass to consult with and you're going in the wrong direction, you'll just keep going that way until eventually you won't figure out.
You're gonna bounce around like a tumbleweed, because one time my mom said this, one time my dad said that, one time my aunt said this, one time my friend said this, one time I saw on TV that I want to be like this person or
Right.
that person, whatever. Like everything is giving me advice, but advice from their perspective. I'm not
Yeah.
saying it's wrong. It's right for them, but it's wrong for you because it is not yours.
When I was in college and getting ready to graduate and I was interviewing for jobs, I didn't know what I loved to do or didn't want to do. I was like, well, I don't know. I'll kind of do anything. I'm a smart guy. I can figure it out. I remember I applied for this role at JP Morgan Chase, and I was like, oh, JP Morgan Chase, that sounds like a great place to work, right? And it was like the investment arm of it. And the role was for this operations management program. I was like, sounds cool. Operations
Sounds
management. I
awful.
was like, what is, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it sounds like I'd probably make some good money and, it's with a prestigious company. And it was actually a really prestigious role. They only took like 10 people or something like that.
Creme de la creme.
Yeah, kind of, right. So I got narrowed down to, I think it was like they invited 35 people to on site at JP Morgan, and I think it was in Chicago. So they had this whole long day, almost like we were monkeys or something like that, where they put us in all different scenarios. It was like a full 8-hour day where they gave us role playing scenarios or the team activities we had to do. And then literally people just watched us around the room the whole entire time. And then we would go have interviews and we would do another activity and they would watch us and they would interview. And I shit you not, like before I went to that interview, I was like, what is an operations management person? I was like, I know they're going to ask me, why do you want this job? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm not joking. I had no answer for it. I was like, I don't know. What does an operations management person do? And I mean, I Googled so hard to figure out like what exactly is this role that I'm like, in the final running for kind of thing. And the same thing happened, by the way. Apparently I was really good at getting into the final running. I did not get that job, and rightfully so. I didn't want it. I was just happy to get to the final stages of it. And the people that were in this room with me, all these other prestigious students from all over the place, they were like, oh, I've been wanting to be in operations management since I was 2 years old. I'm like, what the fuck? You know who United Technologies Group is? They make Sikorsky helicopters and Hamilton Sunstream Carrier air conditioners, Otis elevators. They own like all these. They're a massive conglomerate that owns all these different massive companies, manufacturing companies you probably never even heard of. I was working at a manufacturer, my first job out of school, and I was like, I want to make more money. I want to go travel. I want to do other things, blah, blah, blah. So I applied for this job, right? And it was an operations leadership program where they would take you would go around the world for like 3 years, and they would put you in all these different places. And I got invited after multiple interviews to go on site to their corporate offices in Connecticut. And I was like, man, this is cool. So they're booking me flights and doing whatever, and I'm going out there. And I was really excited to have this like full day long session out at United Technologies. And I was like, I think I'm really going to get this job, because I was in a manufacturing world, and I was like, I think I might actually be up for this thing, And then that was around the time that my girlfriend was like, hey, I just took this job at Teach for America, and I'm going to move to Indianapolis. And she was like, if you want to stay in a relationship with me, you need to move to Indianapolis. And I was like, motherfucker. And so I had to make a decision whether or not I declined to go out to Connecticut for this, and I declined a role that I thought I was perfect for. But once again, I still had no idea what even operations management was. I was like, I don't know why I kept going down this road. It just was not. These are just, upon reflection, fun stories of, to your point of, we just start to do stuff because we think we want to do it. I was like, oh, I want to go work at this massive company that'll send me around the world.
If you can't tell people what it is you want to do, it's not you talking.
No, it wasn't at all. I was like, this
Chris,
is
operation management.
My friends will be really jealous if I get to go to Dubai for 6 months and whatever. You know what I mean? I was like, so stupid. Like,
that's exactly my point. Is like exactly, because the thing is, we have this voice for whatever reason. It's been put on and latched to us like some kind of like, I'm not like a parasite that sits onto you and tell you you want this, you want that. But then at the same time, you have no idea what it is.
What you're giving up to do that. Like, you don't even know what it is and what piece of your soul you have to give away to go do that. And then you don't know it until way down the road, and you're like, what the fuck am I doing? And like, if you're lucky, you say that. And if you're not lucky, then you just continue to be miserable. And then eventually you're like, well, I just got to get to retirement. I got to get to that terminal, that end terminal retirement, and you're like, why would you? You shouldn't be looking forward to retirement. Like, you shouldn't be.
When you don't like something, it seems like a marathon. That's what I'm saying. If you don't like your life, right? Your life is a marathon, and because of the marathon, you're yearning for the day where your life ends. That is so sad. You think about it. It is sad. Think about lives. Like, life is miserable. Okay.
No, I agree. Yeah.
People think life is misery, right? That is so upside down.
Yep.
Because the thing is, people are so lucky to be alive. When we talked about this before, it's one in how many trillion chances for you to be even
400 trillion, I think, is what the scientists say to be
alive, to exist,
alive.
And to continue to live, and yet you're yearning for the day where it ends.
The terminal.
And to me, you think about that perspective, it is such a shame that you're giving this chance of a 400 trillion, one chance in a 400 trillion, and you cannot capitalize on it.
Or enjoy.
You want to do something that is like what people want versus what you want. You think about this Chris, right? This Chris is like part of the creme de la creme. People want him to go do the operations management, even though when he doesn't know what it is. And he works all the way, and he leads many teams. He have gone to Salesforce, which is harder to get in, and to go to Harvard. And now he's opening a pickleball club.
It's wild.
Think about it, right? Or set for this I don't know, this management line of managers and
I'm entering the
whatever.
prime of my
You,
career right now. Like I could
you're
easily
being groomed. You're being groomed like as an early young person to
like
become
chief
this.
revenue officer of a large smartphone.
In
Right.
you're groomed for that. But here you are, wanting to open your own repertoire club.
And I'm excited about it. And I'm more excited about this than anything I've ever been. If anything, like I'm sad right now because all I want to do is to go be in the facility and be around people that want to play pickleball. And like all I can't do right now is go do that right now. And it's driving me nuts. Like this is probably the hardest part of the whole process is just fighting through this suck, until I can get to the fun shit but I know that it's getting better every day and I'm cool with that. But you said something that was just a second ago that wanted to piggyback on top of, and now I think I just totally forgot about it. Oh, the marathon thing of marathons suck. They do suck. If you're running a marathon just to run a marathon to get to the end of the marathon, like that, you're in for a world of hurt. It's gonna suck.
I don't want to do any marathon.
Well, no, you can do a marathon. So if we're comparing it to a marathon, right? I made something that I love.
I'm not on a marathon. You are.
Well,
I'm basically in a car driving around.
Hang on, let me finish what I was gonna say because I know exactly what you're gonna say because you're right. I made something that I loved. Like I still do it. Every fucking day was a blessing to be able to do this when I was doing Yomo stuff. When I was writing these reflections, and I'm still writing them, right? I'm sad when I can't write them, because I don't have a new book and a new thought or something like that I just finished or whatever these days. I can't do it every day because that's kind of, I need a for this particular project, I need something to write about it. But I turned something that was amazing, something I loved, and something that was magical into something that for a certain portion of this whole entire thing was miserable because I set this weird arbitrary goal, that this arbitrary stupid goal, right? From that book a couple books ago that made me think that was the terminal, right, endpoint, right, of this journey, and that wasn't the terminal endpoint of this journey, and because of that, like I got fucking miserable. I bonked a little bit around like 300 to 320, and I was like dragging ass in this every single day. And I turned something I loved every morning into something I hated. And so I finally was like, oh, this isn't the end of the day. This is like, and this is when I started to realize that
this is the kind of perspective that we need because you think about something
just
you
keep going.
love.
What do you do when you finish a marathon?
And you are turning it arbitrary, just constraining yourself to turn it into a series of miseries.
Right.
And so life is the same way, right? Life is when you do something, you say, hey, I have to do this, I have to do that every single day. I have to wake up, right? Say, I have to wake up, I have to go do this, I have to do that. Or the other perspective is I get to wake up, right? That's amazing. I mean, you think about it, if I give you $1 billion today, but the caveat that you won't wake up again, would you take it? Exactly. It's nonsense. But that's what I'm saying is life is like that. If you think from that perspective, is you get to get up and you get to have a new day. You get a whole new day. Okay? Yep. And if you think about, oh, I have to get up, I have to wake up, I have to go to work, or whatever, you are thinking of it as a marathon. Yep. And when you think about it, your life is passing you by because you wake up on a Monday and you're yearning for a Friday. Right. So you basically completely, lost
all the fun of the week.
Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday. You completely lost it. You just basically close up your mind and basically you wait for a Friday and you enjoy this Friday, Saturday, and then you
and then you're miserable. Get ready to go back to Monday.
You get stressed on a Sunday again, right? So you think your life is like in your life. That's what you do every single day. You think about it, like your life. You have what? How many thousands of days? How many thousand days do you think you have?
I have no idea.
30,000 days, right?
I don't know.
You think about
you could
you're talking about 100 years.
Well, if you're lucky.
I'm saying if you take 100 years, I mean that I'm giving you more than you deserve. 100 years, right? Times 365. That's what? 36,000 days, right? 40,000 days. Is that a lot? If you think from that perspective, it isn't. And you are throwing away Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. You live on a Friday and Saturday. That's all you live for. You think about how sad that is.
That is really
sad. Because you just turn something, your life, that it should be precious, into a marathon. And when you turn to a marathon, like I say, who put a gun to your head and make you do this thing?
No one. I mean, you asked me that so many times in this journey, and I was like, I don't know, man.
A gun to your head and make you buy a $500,000 house that you don't need? Who put a gun to your head and make you buy the car that you never can use? Who put a gun to your head and make you buy all the shitty things that you never need?
Right. No one.
Right? And then you say, well, I have to go pay bills.
Right.
Like, fuck it. The thing is, you understand, if you live in the United States, you basically have no loss guarantee. You say, well, I either gain or I don't lose anything. You go back to zero. You don't go negative. In other countries, you don't have that opportunity, because if you lose, they will go after you for life.
Right.
In America, you can say, hey, I borrowed some money. I did this venture. Well, now I lost the money I had, but it wasn't my money in the first place. I don't owe extra. I can file for bankruptcy. Man, America is like, you have this safety net that's ground floor. You cannot lose.
Right.
You don't win, but you cannot lose. Right? You either win or you go back to where you were.
Right.
So you think about it. If you think about the perspective, that perspective gives you whether or not your life is a marathon or it is something that you want to have the longest as possible. Because you get to the point where you say, well, I'm looking forward to a new day. That I get up, I get to see the sunshine, I get to think about what I want to do, choose the thing I want to do.
Exactly. It'll be a blessing if you're here in 20 years, and I guarantee you, this is why we don't set goals. This is why I don't set goals anymore. I don't know what the fuck I'm gonna be. If you would have told me 5 years ago that I'd be starting a pickleball club, I would have been like, what the fuck is pickleball? Like, I would have been like, I've never even played before. Like maybe 5 years ago I had. If you asked me 7 years ago, I would have been like, what the fuck is pickleball? Like, I would have been like, that sounds stupid. That's dumb. And I'm like, that can't compute. And not only that, all the other things that have happened in my life in between then, it'd be insane for you to even utter those words to me. And I would be like, well, you don't know. But to your point,
a privilege.
You your explorer ants out and you keep exploring. I found this exploring with Amelia. This is where it led us. And I'm going to keep going with it. And then eventually I'm going to keep exploring other places. Eventually this honey pot, hopefully it stays nice and fertile for a really long time. But if it doesn't, and it turns out to be a dead end, then we'll take our compass, we'll keep walking, we'll keep exploring, we'll have our feelers out all the time, and we'll keep figuring it out. I mean, but that's, to your point, that's what the fun of it every single day is. Right now, I feel good because I have a honey pot that we're found, and I can't wait to go dig deeper in that honey pot.
If you haven't found any honey pot, you think about it. You wake up every day and say, what do I get to do today? You can choose. So it is actually a privilege to be able to explore in the first place.
Agreed.
To even have the ability to do a monthly challenge in the first place. And most of us in America, we have that. The forefathers have given us that, right? We have that privilege.
You can do whatever
you don't take it. You don't take it. Right. You get up and you're miserable. You got to have your coffee and you're grumpy. It's like, well, it's your perspective. No one puts a gun to your head and asks you, say, hey, you got to be grumpy today.
Right.
And ask you, hey, don't think about what you get to do today. Because if somebody said, I give you $1 trillion, but you don't go wake up again, that makes no sense. No one would trade their life for $1 billion.
There's people out there that would probably trade that if they said, well, if it helps me to have my family be taken care of for the next 150 years, guaranteed.
How do you know they're going to take you?
Well,
how do you know?
It gives your family a really good chance to be taken care of.
No, it's just ability for me to take advantage of you because of your stupidity, because you're dead. How can you guarantee anything when you're dead?
That's true. That's why people kill themselves for insurance money. But I'm just saying, there probably would be some people out there that might take that.
But suicide isn't.
Right. I know. I'm just saying, like, we don't know, but you and I, that sounds ludicrous because we enjoy our life, you know. But I guarantee
to a normal human being is ludicrous.
Yes, to a normal human being is ludicrous. But I could see somebody trying to rationalize, well, if I did that, I just killed myself.
Irrationally rationalizing.
Exactly. All right. That's kind of all the thoughts I had on this one. Any final thoughts for you on?
That's a good place to stop. But I'm saying is, you know, it's perspectives. If you think about your life as a marathon, right? You are putting arbitrary constraint on yourself, and all that does is make your life miserable. You can turn into something beautiful into something ugly. just how you take it. Because I'm saying is when you get up in the morning, you get to get up. You say most people don't get to choose what they want to do that day. Yeah, you have to go to work, but before you go to work, you have the time do whatever you want.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's just how
But
you want
what
to
you
structure
do, you
it.
choose to be miserable. You choose to say, my life's blah blah blah. I can't wait until Friday. Well, then your life will be miserable.
Agreed. Enjoy it and keep exploring. Like, so
That's the point of life.
right.
I mean,
Keep exploring. So
according to
that's your,
me.
so that's your answer. Yeah. According to True. That should be a book in the Bible. All right. So the question we could leave for everybody is, how are you actively incorporating exploration into your life to discover your next steps? Keep sending out those explorer rants, right?
Because what do I get to do today?
Yeah.
Right?
Figure it out.
Because that it comes from you. It's not
Right.
what somebody else tell me I have to do today.
Right.
If you say I have to do something today, that means someone else tells you you have to do something. If you say what do I get to do something, you're telling yourself what you can do.
That's a really good point. Actually, I like that a lot.
Not
Do
to do
that. Like,
anything.
yeah, I was like, oh, I don't have to do that. Like,
I
anyway,
get to go play tennis.
yes, I get to go play tennis.
Uh,
All right. Thanks
all
for
right.
joining, everyone, and have a good night. We'll see you tomorrow for part 2.
Good night.